Do you know that feeling you get when you think that you shot a couple good rolls over the weekend? Something just felt like it was in the air, your focus felt like it was sharp, your reactions were quick, the confidence in your compositions are just higher than they are usually, and you just know that there's a solid amount of keepers in these rolls of film that you have in your back pocket. And 2 days after you drop off your film to your lab and then they send you those scans, and then you upload it to Lightroom and realize what in the world were you thinking when you took those shots. Less than half of them are acceptable, and sometimes only one good photo comes out of that roll. And for me, this is not just localized to one weekend of my life. This just keeps happening over and over again, and the ratio of good photos to bad photos just seems way out of whack. And if you can relate to this feeling, then sometimes you probably feel like you're pretty bad at this photography thing. Yeah, I feel that too. I still have my fair share of bad photography days, and of course it feels like money lost, time lost, because you just spent all of that thinking that you at least had a good amount of keepers. But for me, I think I average like around 10 to 15% keepers, sometimes even 20. And yeah, it gets disheartening sometimes, but when I get down on myself solely on the basis of numbers, I remind myself about the sport of baseball. Now, I'm no fan of baseball, and I really don't know much about the sport. I just want to put that as a disclaimer. But one of the few things that I know about baseball is something called a batting average. Now, my civilian outsider perspective of the sport is that I assume or perceive that these baseball players probably have a good amount of percentage of success when they're at bat. I live in New York. I hear about Aaron Judge and his proficiency at batting all the time. He broke the home run record a couple years ago. I'm Asian. I know about Shohei Ohtani and how great he is at batting. But when I looked it up, the typical batting average of a professional baseball player is 0.25. That is a lot lower than I thought it would be. And what I'm about to say is solely a surface level, naive statement that I'm going to make for the sake of the argument that I'm trying to make. And that is, these athletes that are being paid millions of dollars a year only succeed about 25% of the time. In any job, that sounds ridiculous. So if we're going to stay on the topic of percentages and ratios of being a photographer, regardless of street or whatever, a 25% success rate in a regular roll of film is about 9 good photos out of 36 frames. That's not that bad if you think about it, and if you do have that, well, you're in the same ballpark, no pun intended, as a professional baseball player. So if you base your success on the amount of keepers that you have in your film photography or any type of other genre, well, this is kind of encouraging, knowing that you don't always have to strike gold every single time you hit the shutter in every single outing. Now, this used to be the way that I would encourage myself every single time I had a bad outing in street photography. But then I started thinking about it, and I'm like, should I be thinking about my work in this way? So in today's video, I want to challenge this notion of our hit rate, our percentages of keepers in any given role or in any given outing of our photography. And I'm going to do this by talking about some of the photography greats that we might be familiar with. Ernst Haas, Mary Ellen Mark, Bruce Gilden are all great in their own merit. All have made art in photography that spanned decades, and as you can imagine, tens of thousands of photos, if not more, were created. These three have their own creative voice, and there's not much overlap in between the three, which hopefully helps my point. Again, if you're an artist struggling with basing your success off numbers of keepers and percentages of good photos to bad photos, this could be helpful. Just like my perception of baseball players, the perception of these photography legends is that they hardly miss a good shot, that their mind and skill are so sharp that there's a slim chance that they ever mess up. So let's talk about that. Let's take Mary Ellen Mark in her book Encounter. Here's a section titled Damn Family, a documentation that spans from 1987 and 1994. 2 years of work. These are very strong, impactful photos that jump off the page and what the it's over. Wait, hold on. A section of white supremacists in the US, 1986 to 1995. Stunning, powerful photos. I don't know how she got them, but wait, hold up. That's already over? That was 9 years of work. And this is where I was challenged in my perception of success. 99.9% truly don't know how many photos were made from these grades that I just talked about. If there were more photos shown, would that increase the value of the photos that we just saw? Why or why not? If we were told that there were 9,000 photos shot, but only 6 of these were selected, would that make those 6 photos less valuable? Why or why not? So here's a great example and one of my biggest inspirations from a book called Contact High. If you love contact sheets and hip hop, this is a great book for you. Here we can see the work of the photographers in what they saw, what they tried, and what was finally selected. One photo was selected from a sheet of 36. In fact, there's no way they only shot one roll. So here's some takeaways that I had for myself. 1, who cares how many photos I take if I get the one? 2, I shouldn't be afraid to try to make that one good photo. And 3, one of the biggest ones is, these books and photos were not even curated by the photographer. These photos were chosen and arranged by a professional curator. So now you got to think, oh, this is another layer of someone else's interpretation of what looks good for an audience. So if that's the case, what the hell am I worried about? If you haven't watched one of my last videos where I did this 10-month documentary on one of my friends while he was making his book, you should click the link up here. In that video, I showed a whole treasure trove worth of photos, and some of them were only separated by increments of a second. There's one perspective that would criticize the way that was shoot, because what's the point of spending all those frames on just fractions of a second apart? Like, that is such a waste. Just wait for the moment, get the frame, and move on. That is definitely a valid perspective. Economically makes sense. Don't waste your money on just a single moment. Now, where I'm at with my creative process is that the idea of the ratio, the good amount of keepers or whatever, I don't adhere to that because I work for that one good photo. I have quite the obsession of getting that right moment, and I will rip the lever off of my Leica if it means getting that fractional perfect moment of the hand being in the right place, the facial expression being in the right place, all of the details in the frame. I will spend as many frames as I can to get that perfect moment, because I don't want to be known in my whole entire career for having a great ratio of good photos to bad photos. I personally want to be known for getting the photo. So now this might be coming off in, hey, you should be wasteful with your film. You should buy so much Tri-X, Portrait 400, Portrait 800, and rip it all on one subject so that you can get that one photo. Now, this might be missing the point, and I know how I come off sometimes because of my passion, but this is not about numbers in any way, shape, or form. Whether it's objective numbers or relative numbers, those work well when it comes to talking about sports. It works in baseball, it works in basketball. But when it comes to art, I'm not sure if that's how we should be thinking about it at all. Because at the end of the day, it should just be you. The title of this video is something that I tell myself sometimes after a bad day or a bad week. Like, I suck at the street photography thing. I suck at this doc photography, whatever. I'm just not getting those good photos. I feel very not so talented this week or month. And yeah, it's okay if you feel that way. It comes to us at different points in our career, different points in time. But I think the creation of art shouldn't be measured by a metric set by somebody else or to impress anybody else, whether it's online or in person or at a gallery, whatever. I have to sometimes remind myself that I shouldn't be shooting photos for the sake of filling a video for YouTube or for content for Instagram. My creative photography goals are set in books. I have some that I'm working on right now, some that I'm continuously adding on, I guess indefinitely, and there are just days where I am adding bricks. I'm not sure when it's going to end, I'm not sure where it's going, but I'm just adding bricks. And when I go out, I need to know that the feeling and the reason why I'm going out is for the sake of finding that next piece, chipping away at this raw block of marble, not necessarily going out and saying, hey, I need to get 5 good photos today or I can't eat dinner. I personally go off of feeling, I go off of thoughts, I don't go off of numbers. My process feels like music. It feels like compositions. It ends in books. And if you think about books, not photo books, but like real reading books, I haven't read a book in a really long time. But when we read books, I don't think we think about the author hitting backspace throughout the whole process. Nobody cares about the sentences and paragraphs they've deleted or that they've made mistakes on. You just read the book. I have a long career ahead of me, and when my books come out, nobody's gonna be thinking about how many photos I missed. And before we wrap up here, let's thank the sponsor of this video, Squarespace. Squarespace provides some of the industry-leading tools for making a portfolio for photographers like us who want to be taken seriously. I recently renovated my website to be more focused on my documentary work. Squarespace allows a lot of customizability from their award-winning templates to something as simple as changing the background to black. I love how my website feels more mature, and if I have any questions or problems, I know I can contact the 24/7 customer service to get myself squared away. You can start a free trial today at squarespace.com/ChrisChew. Use my code ChrisChew at checkout for 10% off your first purchase. Thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. Thank you guys so much for watching another video. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment down below about what you thought about this topic, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.